Hello there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi. My name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. Anyway, today I'm coming to you with a reading vlog, which I have been working on for a very long time. And I've actually done this exact same concept before, but it was back in 2020. So basically today I'm going to be reading the lowest rated books on my Goodreads TBR. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We're going to be reading some books which are not universally loved, apparently. But yeah, I thought this would be interesting because sometimes I have slightly different opinions to other people. I mean, obviously, not everyone thinks exactly the same. But yeah, sometimes I find that I like books that other people don't like, and vice versa. Normally it's the other way around. I don't like books that are very popular and everyone else seems to love, and I just don't get it occasionally. But yeah, so I thought it'd be interesting to just see. So basically went onto my Goodreads, went to my to read shelf and sorted it from lowest rated to highest rated, and I was gonna read the bottom 5, but I actually ended up only reading 4 because there was one book which was just weighing on me and I did not want to read it. And I just thought, what's the point? Like, what is actually the point of forcing myself to read this book when I don't even know if I'm gonna like it? I'm not going to continue on with the series, and like, just what is the point? So unfortunately it's only going to be 4 books, but yeah, we read the 4 lowest rated books on my TBR, and I went in order from like the highest of the lowest rated to the lowest rated. So in this video we're going to be reading Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell, and finally we're going to be reading Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. So yeah, I'm going to see if I agree with these ratings or if I think they're better or worse than what they've got on Goodreads. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. Maybe a pain for me, but a fun time nonetheless. So yeah, let's just get into the first book. Hello there, I'm here to check in with my first book. So this is the highest of the lowest rated, if that makes sense. And that is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I meant to check in a little bit earlier, but to be honest, when I was like at the 100 page mark, which was when I was gonna do my check-in, I ended up just like reading a bunch more and like not having time to update the vlog. So anyway, I'm around about 2/3 of the way through this book. I'm on page 194, but I'm enjoying this. I'm having a decent time. It's definitely not gonna be my favorite romance book ever, but I am having a pretty okay time with it. And this does have a 3.62, which is not the lowest rating ever, and like that wouldn't necessarily put me off reading a book. But I don't really get why people are giving this like 1 star. Like, I feel like there are quite a few 1-star reviews. And I'm like, I don't know if it's that bad. I don't know. I haven't told you what this book is about. This book is actually, it's reminding me a lot of The X Talk, which is also by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I've read that book and also her book that came out last year, which was Business Casual, and I enjoyed both of those. I had a great time with both of them, so I definitely like her writing style. But this is a bit reminiscent of The X Talk just because they're co-workers. And yeah, I don't know, it's just giving me not the same vibes, but it's a little bit similar, but obviously very different at the same time. It basically follows her main character, Ari Abrams, and she is a meteorologist on TV. So she's basically a weather girl. Anyway, and she's having some sort of difficulties at work. Like, she's fine in her job, like nothing's going wrong, but her boss isn't really giving her any attention and like helping her progress in her career because she's too busy fighting with her ex, who also happens to work at the same station and happens to be Russell's boss. Russell, who is one of the sports guys. And so Russell and Ari are both sort of having issues because their bosses can't stop fighting because they used to be married but they got divorced and now they hate each other. However, Russell and Ari think that maybe they don't actually hate each other as much as it seems, and that actually that passion could be redirected if they get back together. So Ari and Russell team up to try and get their bosses back together in hopes that this smooths out all of the issues that are happening around the office. But while all this is happening, they're also growing closer to each other, and who knows, maybe there's something more there. It's very similar to the movie Set It Up, if you've seen that, with Glenn Powell and I want to say Zoe Dutch, is that her name? Anyways, yeah, very similar to that because in that they both hate, well, they hate their bosses and they're trying to set them up so that they leave them alone because they're horrible. So, you know, kind of similar. Anyway, I am enjoying it. It's fine. It's nothing particularly special. Like, I think the issue is that the actual romance itself is like just kind of mild. There's just not that much chemistry there. Like, you don't feel the chemistry on page, and it kind of feels like they went from like 0 to 100 in a way. I don't know. It's okay. I feel like this is somewhere between a 3-star and a 4-star probably, unless the ending is really bad and then it will be lower. But I don't know, I'm having an okay time. That's the best I can say. But yeah, it's okay, it's fine. I'll check in when I finish the book because honestly I don't have anything else to say. Hello, I am back to talk to you about Weather Girl, my final thoughts on this book. Sorry, this is a really weird angle because basically I put you on my bookshelf, but you're like a shelf too high, but on the lower shelf you're too low, so I just feel really short. I am short, but I feel so short. I'm even wearing high heels right now because I'm breaking in my wedding shoes. Anyway, Anyway, Weather Girl, final thoughts. This ended up having a very disappointing second half. Obviously, I wasn't having the best time ever with it anyway. I was like thinking it was going to be like a 3-star, maybe a 3.5 if it had a really good ending. But the ending, I didn't like at all. I thought that the third act conflict in this was so dumb. It really felt like Rachel Lynn Solomon was like, okay, we need to have a third act conflict, but I can't really think of one. So let me just pull one out of thin air. And it was like a situation which should have just been like funny, but instead it was like blown out of proportion and turned into this big thing. It caused for like a quote unquote breakup. So it was just like really, really irritating for me. And then also to add insult to injury, the epilogue in this book was like the worst thing that could ever happen, in my opinion. I absolutely hate the idea of that. I've never read it in a romance book before, but I've heard about it happening. I've seen it on Instagram. Like, this is a thing that people do in real life. It's something that, in my opinion, I don't think should ever happen at a wedding. Even if you get permission from the bride and groom, it shouldn't happen. I'm actually gonna spoil it for a second. I'm gonna tell you what happened. So if you don't want to know, if you're gonna read this book, which you can, it was fine, it was okay, but if you want to read this book and you don't want to know, skip till this time, okay? You've been warned. Okay, so at the end of this book, Russell proposes to Ari at somebody else's wedding. And I'm just like, no, that's not okay. I'm getting married next week. If somebody proposes at my wedding, I will be so mad. Oh my God. I would literally be fuming. For me, it's just not acceptable to do that, and I don't even care. I don't care that they got permission and the other people, like the bride and groom, were so excited. I don't think that would actually happen. I don't know. Maybe like if you are really close with someone, but I just think like it's not your day. It's the couple's day. Leave it to them. Maybe I'm feeling extra like intense about it because my wedding's happening in a week. So maybe that's why, but spoilers over. My thoughts didn't really change. I didn't really feel the chemistry. And honestly, I was quite bored reading this. Like, I didn't really feel like I needed to pick it up. And normally with a romance book, even though it's like not like exciting in terms of like the plot, I do always feel like I want to just keep reading because I'm like, normally if I'm into it, if I'm like enjoying the couple, then I would just can't wait to find out like their whole story. Like an Emily Henry book, I will not put that down. But this, unfortunately, it was a miss. I can see why this has low ratings. I end up giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but I'm not going to write it off Rachel Lynn Solomon because I've liked some of her other books. So yeah, I think this was just an anomaly. Anyway, I'll just come back to you once I've started the next book. Hello, I'm back to talk to you about the next book for this vlog. So that book was The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I am actually already finished with this book. I haven't necessarily finished it, but I am finished with it. Yes, I tried to listen to this on audio a little while ago and I ended up stopping because I just thought I wasn't in the mood for audiobooks. And then I tried again like a month later when I really am in the mood for audiobooks, and I realized I just am not in the mood for this book, and I don't think I ever will be. So I have DNF'd this book actually. I think I read about 40% and then I was like, you know what? I don't care about these characters whatsoever. And also I've seen that the rest of the series has horrifically bad ratings. Like the third and final book in the series has lower than a 3 on Goodreads, which is insane. I checked the other day and I think I had like a 2.9, which is pretty much unheard of. Like, people are pretty generous on Goodreads. So for a book to have that low of a rating, I'm like, this must be terrible. So yeah, I tried to like push through anyway, and then I was like, why am I doing this? I'm not going to read the rest of the series because it's not good. And also I've realized that I am not a dark academia girly, and that's okay. I was gonna say I wish I was, but I actually don't care. I'm okay not being a dark academia girly. But yeah, I've tried it a few times. Like, I tried to read The Secret History. I could not get into that whatsoever. I didn't really enjoy Babel by R.F. Kuang, which is like a dark academia fantasy, and I really didn't like that book. It put me in a reading slump. I read it last year and unfortunately I didn't like it. I liked what it had to say, but I didn't like the actual book. And I think I just find dark academia boring, and I don't know why. Because I don't mind a school setting, but I think it's because it's always like so intellectual and like, oh, look at me, I'm so smart, and they're so pretentious. Like, I don't know. Because I like academia as like a thing. Like, in a way I would love to be a perpetual student, apart from the fact that I find it stressful. I'm actually like going into teaching. So like, obviously I like academia as a thing, but I just don't particularly like reading about it. I don't like the pretentious aspect of dark academia. I don't like it when people think they're better than other people, and I find that that's what I get from dark academia. It's like the author writes characters in a way, and sometimes they also present it in a way of like, I'm so smart. Look at all of these things that I know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm coming across correctly or if I'm offending a lot of people. I don't know, but this is just my thoughts and feelings on dark academia as a genre. If you don't know what the Atlas 6 is about, it basically follows 7 characters, and they are all chosen by this guy called Atlas Blakely. They were chosen by Atlas Blakely to go to this special, it's not a school, but it's like a competition to become one of the Atlas 6. And basically it's set in this world where you have Medians and like regular people, and Medians have different sorts of power. So all 7 of them have some powers. Yeah, they basically go to this place and then they are kind of given free reign to sort of research whatever they want to research. I don't know. It was boring and I didn't like the characters. And for me, if both of those things are the case, then it's probably not going to be a book for me. So yeah, I thought like even if it gets better, I'll probably give it maximum 3 stars, and like I know the rest of the series isn't good. So yeah, I ended up DNFing it, so I'm sorry about that. It is what it is. And dark academia is not my genre. I've learned my lesson. I will be taking other dark academia books off of my TBR because I'm not interested. Anyway, let's just move on to the next book, shall we? Hello, I'm back to talk about the next book for this vlog, which is The Age of Magical Overthinking, Notes on Modern Irrationality by Amanda Montell. This has had a surprisingly poor reception. I feel like her first 2 books have been really well received. Her first book was Word Slut, which I loved, and the next one was Cultish, which I also loved, although I think Word Slut is definitely my favorite. Anyway, I think this was quite anticipated by a lot of people. I know I was highly anticipating it, but I'm glad that I've waited because I feel like I've lowered my expectations going into it, because I know that a lot of people don't really like this, obviously, because this is my second lowest rated book on my TBR. Anyway, this is a non-fiction book. This one's not about language, although there are some things to do with language throughout, but it says, in the modern information age, our brain's coping mechanisms have been overloaded and our irrationality turned up to 11. Amanda Montell blends cultural criticism and personal narrative to explore our modern cognitive biases and the power, disadvantages, and highlights of magical overthinking. So it's basically just like a collection of thoughts or notes. And so there are 11 different topics in here, some of which are more interesting to me than others. So far, I'm not finished this book. I'm a little over halfway through actually. But so far my favorites have been number 6, which is called Time to Spiral, and number 7, which is The Scammer Within. Those 2 have definitely been the most interesting for me so far, but I've enjoyed what I've read. I think what I'm slightly concerned about is there's no conclusion, so I don't really think that this is gonna go anywhere. There's nothing to like tie everything together, which is a bit, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried about that. I think also people don't like it because a lot of it is like sort of autobiographical as well. Like Amanda Montell talks a lot about how these things have personally impacted her. I'm so sorry, my camera just died, so I'm just gonna finish this clip on my phone because I'm literally like mid-thought. I don't think I have a spare battery at the moment. I need to charge them. My bad. I think a lot of people have an issue with this book because Amanda Montell does like relate everything back to how it relates to her, and I think people weren't expecting that. It does feel kind of like a biography in a way, although not really. Like a lot of it is talking about things more generally or with specific examples, and then she kind of ties it back to how she's experienced that. And to be honest, I don't really see why this has had such a poor reception. At the moment, this is feeling like a 4-star for me, probably not a 5-star. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to just check in once I finish this book. It shouldn't take me that long because I've only got a few more chapters left. Yeah, I should be back in a couple days to tell you my final thoughts on this. Hello, good morning. You'll have to excuse my face because I'm not putting makeup on today, so this is just what you're getting. Anyway, it's been a few days and I finished reading The Age of Magical Overthinking. I finished reading this like an hour ago. Anyway, but I've made up my mind on how I feel about it, and I'm going to give this a 3.75, which is very specific, but I feel like it wasn't quite a 4, and I thought that 3.5 was a little bit harsh. So 3.75. I ended up actually enjoying this quite a bit. I think the fact that I went in with the lowered expectations really helped. And maybe if I read this right as it came out, maybe I would have been more disappointed. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it brought up a lot of interesting topics. And that was kind of part of the problem, was that it had so much interesting stuff going for it, but it's really short. It's about 220 pages. Like the book itself is longer than that, but like the last 40 pages are notes. So yeah, it's actually around 220 pages. And the font and the margins are also quite big. So it's like there's not that much text on each page. So actually there isn't as much content as there could be, and I think should be, because like I said, there were loads of interesting topics which I feel like could have gone into more depth with them. We covered so many interesting ideas, but very, very briefly. So it really is notes on modern irrationality, because kind of felt like it was just a few little notes on everything, but not enough information and depth that I would have liked. Also, there wasn't a conclusion, which I feel like kind of makes you think, what's the point of it all if this isn't being wrapped up? I can see why people have criticisms of it, and I have those criticisms as well. But I feel like there were certain chapters that really spoke to me. I don't know, I ultimately enjoyed it. I wish that the topics had been explored more, but I think it does get you thinking a little bit, and then if you're interested in certain topics, you can go and explore them more in your own time. It's an interesting one. I can definitely see why people would be really disappointed by this and give it a low rating, but I can also see how some people would absolutely love this. My personal favorite chapters were chapter number 6, which is called Time to Spiral, a note on the recency illusion, chapter 7, The Scammer Within, a note on overconfidence bias, and chapter 10, Nostalgia Porn, a note on declinism. Those were kind of the most interesting chapters for me, but overall I enjoyed it as a whole. I think I would knock it down, but I think I could potentially bump it up to 4 stars. It really depends on how much time I spend thinking about it afterwards. I don't know, for now 3.75. I'm really glad that I'm doing this video because it means that I read this book this year instead of leaving it on my shelf for 2 years. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that, so I will come back to you and talk to you about the final book for this vlog shortly. Hello there, I am finally reading the last book for this vlog, which is also the lowest rated, or quote unquote the worst. Spoiler, I'm actually reading this book first, but pretend like you don't know that. And that is Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan, which has the cutest UK cover ever. That's so cute. Here's the US cover, which I feel like is more recognizable. This is a book that came out last year, and it basically follows a main girly, Riley, that's her name, yeah. And she is basically a curse breaker. She comes from this long line of curse breakers. Only the women in her family are curse breakers, and it's caused her lots of issues in the past with relationships, including her relationship with her dad. Her dad was like not on board with it, and so ended up leaving when she was a kid, which is kind of just thrown in there randomly. But anyway, she's a curse breaker, but she was kind of like ignoring it until the death of her grandmother. She's now 31 and was like tired of working as a bartender, so she decided to set up her own business doing curse breaking. Basically, there's this cursed castle. People want to buy the castle and like rebuild it, but they want to figure out what's wrong with it first. There's like a historical environmental society or something like that, which is like in charge of this whole thing and has hired Riley. But what I don't understand is it's like a tourist attraction to this really small village in Scotland. And so I don't know why they would want to be like getting rid of this castle and like getting rid of the curse when that actually like brings in loads of tourism and doesn't affect the people in the town. Like the curse doesn't affect them in a negative way or anything. I mean, actually it does the opposite because it brings in tourists. But anyway, Riley's been hired to break the curse. Meanwhile, the love interest is called Clark. He is an archaeologist, and basically a year ago he was involved in a bit of a scandal. He's now trying to reclaim his reputation by working on this castle, even though it doesn't actually fall into his field of interest. He doesn't really know much about this time period or this location, so I don't know how it's going to redeem his reputation, but okay. And basically in the very first chapter, they meet in the pub, they end up having dinner and kissing, and then the next day Riley turns up to work and hears Clark bad-mouthing curse breaking, and he basically doesn't believe in her profession and thinks that she's like a con artist. But he doesn't know that she is the curse breaker. He just knows that there's a curse breaker on the way. Anyway, so he basically is just very butthurt about it, and she overhears, and then she's like, oh, I hate this guy. And so from there it ensues this kind of battle of immaturity, of them trying to like mess things up for the other person. They're both ridiculously immature and there's no chemistry, and I am hating this book, if you couldn't tell. This is not a good book. This is like on par with a book that I read last year called Enchanted to Meet You by Meg Cabot, which I hated. Terrible book. It was so bad, and I feel kind of similarly about this book. I'm 51% of the way through and I hate it. I hate it so much. And the worst thing is that I'm using it as like a reward for whenever I do like a 30-minute study sprint. I have like a 10-minute break and I'm reading, but I'm reading this book and it sucks. So it's not really a reward, it's actually a punishment. But yeah, this book is really bad. I understand why it's got such low ratings, but it's annoying because like it sounds like it could be really good with like an archaeologist and an occultist and enemies to lovers. Like it feels like it could be really good, but it's not. It's boring and there's no chemistry and they're really immature. And also she like like literally has not described what either of these characters properly look like. She went into a lot of detail in the first chapter describing that Clark looked like this painting of like a fallen angel, but didn't actually describe what he looks like. Like I don't know what his eye color is or his hair color. I just know that he has a chiseled face. We're just getting into some steamy scenes and I'm just rolling my eyes. This book is so bad. I can't wait to finish it. So I'm done. Anyway, I'll just check in with you again when I finish the book and let you know if my thoughts have changed. But at the moment, I don't know if it's a 2-star or 1-star, but it's pretty low. It's pretty low down. So I can see why this has such bad ratings. Anyway, my study break is over. So I'm gonna go study and then reward myself with some more of this book. But hopefully I can finish it today or tomorrow. That's the plan. I know. That's my timer telling me I have to go back to work. Hello, it's been a few hours. It is the same day and this has given me a headache, but I have finished the book and I have to say this was the worst book I've read in a long time. Definitely my worst book of the year so far. It was very bad. I'm surprised it has as high as a 3.5, but yeah. This was a terrible book. It was so bad. I think I've already spoken about this bit, but the characters are very immature and annoying. There's no chemistry. And also once things start getting hot and heavy, it's just like, it's not constant, but it does happen quite a few times. And it's like, I don't care. And I don't like the way that she writes smut. Oh my God. I just didn't like anything about it. Literally nothing. This, if you can tell, is a 1-star book, and this is my first 1-star of the year, hopefully my last. To highlight how bad this is just an example of how terrible the writing is. This was on page 43, by the way, so pretty early on to be having these sorts of thoughts, but okay. This close, every inhale carried the scent of her shampoo, cheap artificial strawberry, like fucking lube. He bit off a groan. I'm so sorry, but to me, if I smell artificial strawberries, it makes me think of those like strawberry and cream candies, which I can't think what brand they are. I feel like they're like a Werther's candy and they're like a little strawberry cream, little hard candy. I can picture it so well because I haven't had one in the longest time. I don't know if anyone else knows what I'm talking about, but yes, that's what I picture when somebody says artificial strawberry. I don't instantly think about lube. That's not where my brain jumps to instantly. But, you know, that's how you show that there's like sexual attraction there. That clearly is chemistry because it's making him think of lube. I really hate how many times I've just said that word on this channel. Oh my God. This book was horrendous. I'm so glad to be done with it. Read it if you want a terrible time. But if you don't want a terrible time, read something completely different and better. That would be my recommendation to you. But anyway, yes, those were the 4 lowest rated books on my Goodreads TBR. Am I glad that I read them? Not particularly. Only really this one. The rest of them I really could have done without, but you know, it's fine. It is what it is. I kind of like doing this vlog because it pushes me to read books that maybe I wouldn't read because of the low ratings, but then maybe I should just take the low ratings as a sign, like it's actually not worth your time. So yeah, I think going forward, I'm going to be more mindful because I do go through my Goodreads TBR quite regularly and I take things off. Normally, if they have a very low rating, then I will just take them off. For me, anything that's like under a 3.6 on Goodreads is a bit of a red flag. So yeah, I need to be really mindful going forward with those and maybe I can have a better reading year next year. We'll see. But yeah, I thought I would quickly rank these books from worst to best, although I think you probably know. I think the worst book by far that I read was Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. This was truly terrible. I wish I hadn't read it, but also I was just so curious because it sounded like it was going to be so good, but it was so bad. I also could put the Atlas 6 in the bottom place, but I think this book isn't necessarily terrible like Do Your Worst. It just isn't the book for me, so that's why I'm not putting it in the lowest spot. But yeah, I didn't like this book either, unfortunately. Then we have Weather Girl, which was just fine. It was okay. The ending was annoying to me. It was super forgettable. Like I read it a couple months ago now and I can't remember anything. So yeah, not very good. And the best book for me, luckily because I own it, is The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. I actually enjoyed this one. It wasn't my favorite book by her, but you know, it was good. I'll probably reread sections from it in the future. But yeah, I liked it and I own it. Oh, speaking of owning things, I've already unhauled Weather Girl, as you might be able to tell because I'm not holding up the book. That's gone already. But yeah, anyway, that is all for this video. If you want to see a second part to this where I read the highest rated books on my TBR, I am planning to do that. So let me know if that's something you want to see because it's in the works for sometime next year. I wanted to do it this year, but it's not going to happen because all of the books that I have to read are so long. So yeah, that will be coming next year. But yeah, that is all that I have for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave me a trash can emoji down below because these books were trash. That is all that I have. So I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye. Ah! What did you step on? A wasp?
Huh?
A wasp?
Yeah. Did you put another one there?
I did not put a wasp there. A wasp ended up there, not by my fault. Bye. I knew you were there. Oh my god. Anyway, it's something that. Stop it! Don't.